Okay, so this is the 640i. I've got a little dog in the back. I'll pull him out right now because we just got home. As you can see, it's quite a lovely shape. It's very dirty at the moment because we've just had some rain here. I use this as a daily driver. Come on, Dino, you want to hop out? You coming out? No, you just want to hang in there. Well, while Dino's hanging there, I'll show you something that I thought was good BMW engineering. Look at this. If I open the fuel cap, I thought it was going to, look at that, it looks like it's going to hit the window. It doesn't. That's just great BMW engineering and design. When I once opened the drawer and had the fuel cap open, there's only like, what, a thumb between that. It's even closer. But, you know, they thought about everything, and so they made sure that that didn't actually hit, and it doesn't hit. But these frameless door, windows are absolutely beautiful, and you can see that when I shut this, it'll just slide up a little bit, and then when I pull it, it'll drop down again, and that's just creating a better seal. As we go around to the back, I've actually put a new exhaust on this car. Again, it's really filthy because it was just raining, but this car comes up absolutely beautifully, and I think the tail lights on this are absolutely gorgeous. One little thing I did damage on this car, I finished baseball training, I put my baseball bag in the car, and as I took it off my shoulder, I just hit the corner of that and it smashed it, and I was gutted. And I looked at the replacement price of this, it's just, I don't even want to talk about it. I do actually find that these taillights kind of look pink. It's one thing I've never liked about this car, is that the taillights, instead of being a deep red, here you can see, I'm not sure if the camera's showing, this is a really deep red. This is more of a pink, and that pink just, it annoys me. If I could change one thing about the car, it would be that. But I think when you're looking at the back square on, it's just such an aggressive look. It's just so fat. You've got this beautiful big fat wheel arches, and you can just tell, comparative to a 5 Series, it is just so much more aggressive. I've noticed in this little reflector that this has started to come off, so something to notice as these cars age. That might be something that you see. To open the boot, I've just had these struts replaced. Now, what I have noticed about this car comparative to, let's say, a 5 Series, is when it rains, when I remember with the 5 Series, when it rained, I remember thinking, oh, isn't it so good how water doesn't go in through the boot? Whereas this car, it does. Because part of the sacrifice of having such a beautiful shape is that when it rains, water runs off here and actually runs into the boot. And that's tragic, but what can you do about it? I do like the size of the boot though, so that the camera's not picking it up, a bit filthy, but they'll take care of this when I clean it. 60/40 split, the boot is massive. And when you want to drop the boot, it's really good because you've got these handles here. Sorry, that if you want to drop the back seats, you pull this, and they just, Dino's in there, so they won't flip forward at the moment. But I've bought stuff from, say, Bunnings as an example, and people have seen me going to put something big in the car, and I can sort of see them saying, there's no way that's going to fit. It does fit. I've fit huge things in this car. For a sports car per se, it's probably not fair to call it a sports car, but for such an aggressive looking car, the amount of stuff you can fit in it is just absolutely phenomenal. It's bigger than the 5 Series. It's probably not as high, as in this distance here is probably not as high, but oh boy is it deep. You can easily fit 2, maybe 3 bodies in there. Kidding, probably fit 4. The other thing with this, I've just given Dino a bath, that's his towel here. Now as you can see, it's probably a good point here, is that I use this car to drive. That is, I don't have it as a weekend driver where it's just like a hobby car or a collection car. I use this car to live. I just use it every day as if I would every other car, and it is just absolutely immensely practical, except for how low it is. That aside, as long as you've got good knees, it doesn't matter. Now with the seatbelt, you'll see here, the seatbelt was actually mounted on the seat. This little function is quite good. If ever I need to put the seat forward, this is really handy. I actually use this more than I thought I would. Say I jump in the car and I've got to put something big in the back and I just need a little bit more room. Instead of opening the back door, sorry, the front door, I can just press this and it winds forward. You can see I've got a hammock on here at the moment, a dog hammock to protect the back seat. Dino loves coming in this car. And speaking of Dino coming in the car, he'll often put his, you're right buddy, he'll often put his little nose here and lap up the air conditioning at the back. So he'll be lying in the back. I've got the air conditioning or heating going for him, and he just sleeps like a log. You love driving, don't you, Dino? Yeah. Yeah, and as you can see, you're going to come out. Cool. So onto the front. I just mentioned this. So in the newer models, and this is same with the 7 Series, they took the indicator from here and they put it up here into the rear view mirror. Now, 2 issues with that. First of all, this actually looks really cool. When you see the indicator on, it's not real bright, but it just looks good that it's going down this beautiful chrome here. When you put it up here in the newer version, instead of filling this in, they just leave it like a big silver plate. So you've just got this big silver plate that's not doing anything. At least with this silver plate, A, it looks good, but B, it's got an indicator in it. It actually does something. Whereas the newer version, they made a blank silver plate, put it up here, so now these are even more expensive. And it, in my opinion, just subjective, it just doesn't look as good. Now again, you can see this long, aggressive windscreen. Filthy car at the moment because of all the rain, but that long, aggressive windscreen just gives it a really nice aerodynamic feel, and also unfortunately puts too much sun into the cabin, which is probably good in winter but terrible in summer. What do you reckon, Dino? Down to the wheels, just had brand new brakes put on this bad boy, and these are 20s, so 245 35 20, whereas the back are, I think they're 255s from memory, or 265s. Let's check out the back here. The backs are, they are offset, the backs are wider, yeah, or 275s, so much wider. The rears are 275 versus those front, so you get a really big footprint at the back. Now, I think even with those big wide tyres, I can just put the foot down and this thing will light up, no problem whatsoever. Under the bonnet, again, got a lightened bonnet, doesn't feel it when you lift it, but being the 6 Series, there's that, a little bit dirty. Keep in mind, this is several years old, this car now. There's your twin power turbo, 3 litre straight 6 with, I have actually chipped it, and the chip was down low in front, so to get to the chip, I actually had to take the entire front grille off, or sorry, bumper, the entire bumper off, and then take that chip out. We sent it to Melbourne and they reprogrammed it, came back and put it in. So it's a big job to do that, but it's worked quite well. This car has had some issues with overheating. That is not getting too hot, it just runs out of coolant. So the coolant's in here, so I've just been topping that up every now and then. But over recent time, after I had a lot of work done to it, it hasn't really been an issue. If you look inside the grille, which again filthy, those are these like Venetian grills that they're shut at the moment, but when it gets hot and needs to breathe more, those things will open up like Venetian blinds and just suck in more air. It's quite a good system. One thing that blows my mind about this car, I didn't notice it until I had it for a while, is you can see this grille or vent down below. So you've got a headlight, indicator, fog light, vent. Now on the other side, that vent is not real. That vent is just, it's just filled in plastic. And I didn't know what that was about, but they just didn't need the radiator. There's another radiator on this side for the intercooler, but they don't need it on the other side. These ducts are really cool. That goes straight into the wheel arch, straight onto the brakes. So that's the real stuff there, where it's just sucking air straight into those vents. Jeez, this car looks really dirty on camera. The thing is, when this car is clean, it just looks so good. I think it looks good no matter what. But when it's it comes up immaculate when you've really, well, you don't even really have to polish it. I was actually at a car meeting the other day, and a guy who owned a Porsche came up and goes, "Wow, look at your car. Like, what have you done?" I'm like, "Man, I just went to Car Lovers." And really, I hadn't done anything to it, but it just comes up so good. I don't think it's anything particular fancy with the 6 Series, just BMW does good paint. I have noticed over time this little ribbon has come off the electrical work, but it's not a showstopper and it doesn't really matter. Many people have had issues with this. I never have. I'm a tall dude, I've never hit my head on that, but I actually don't spend too much time under the bonnet except for doing that fluid over there. But some people have, and other than that, this whole cover comes off. That's just a bit of plastic, same with all BMWs. This bit of plastic just makes it look pretty. You can take that off. You wouldn't, but you can. I guess if you're serious about racing, you could probably do that. Now, I've just noticed here, you can see a bit of a friction burn on that wiper arm. Now that would be rubbing against probably one of the cables up here, but I've never actually noticed that's rubbing anywhere in particular where it's alarming, but it is something that I've just picked up then as I'm doing this detailed review. Now what is cool about this car is what I can see right now is these wipers are up, so they're slightly higher. These wiper blades should actually drop down a bit lower. So what actually happens is, and I've just noticed now that I'm doing a detailed review, when you don't have the wipers on, they drop right down here. Actually, I'll see if I can fix this right now. Okay, so the wiper blades are here. Now when I turn, it's on auto at the moment, now when I turn off auto, they should drop down. There you go. Now it's just a little thing, so I've got auto on, they're up here, and you can see they're slightly higher. But when I turn off the wipers, they just drop that little bit lower. When you're actually in the cabin, it looks like they drop much further, but it's just a little touch on the 6 Series. When your wipers are on, or you're in auto, ready for action, they just raise that little bit, and then when you turn them off, they tuck away a little bit. If you ever want to change your wiper blades, here's one thing that's a restriction on the 6 Series. You see I can't lift that up. So to change those wiper blades, what you actually do is you get the wipers on, and then when they get here, you turn the car off, and then they stop on your windscreen, and then you can fold them back. Watch this way for a complete demonstration. This is unique to the 6 Series. So car's running, I turn on the wipers as they get to I missed it, so I'll try that again. It's hard while you're holding a phone. So wipers on. When they get up, hang on, I'm trying to catch it. Hang on. I'm trying to hold the phone, press the wiper. Here, I'll just turn them on. Okay, so the wipers are going. When they get to the top, well, I've done it before. I'm trying to do too many things at once here. But you turn the car off with the wiper blades up here, and then you can catch them up there. That was a really shitty demonstration. Just onto the external lights. With the 5 Series, you can see this car comes with an ejection seat, which is just a sticker. But it's a bit of a fun. So what actually happens with the 5 Series is that the external lights are here. So you approach the car and it sprays a light, if you will, down to the ground. But with the 6 Series, the light is actually inside here. So it's a thing. I'll just turn that on. I've got a door open, so it's not actually activating it. But the light is in here, as instead of coming down here, which is, it's not a big deal. Sorry, there it is. You can see it. It's at the front. I was pointing at the back. But it really actually just lights up the handle as opposed to lighting up the ground. So a thing that I actually prefer about the 5 Series is that the 5 Series actually points down and lights up the ground. I think same with 3 and 7, but the 6, I think because it's just part of a sleek car. When it's so sleek, there's nowhere to put this stuff, so they actually had to tuck it right in there. Fun little quirk and feature. Here you've got a first aid kit here, which tucks away quite nicely. As I mentioned, the huge boot, and you've also got another little hidey hole here. This is a toolkit. You see it's quite filthy. I need to give this car some love, but because I'm getting rid of it, someone else will give it some love. But I've never actually used that, but it is quite a deep little hidey hole if you need to put something in there. And of course, because it's the Beamer, you've got your battery in the back with no spare wheel. It did bother me, or does bother me when I'm going on long drives. Tie down points, these are cool. I have actually used like an Oki strap, the new type of Oki strap that just makes things a little bit tidy there. I've heard of people putting cargo nets in there, but I haven't never used it. And you've got another deep bin here. God, it looks filthy on camera, which it probably is. Okay, and another thing that is missing comparative to the 5 Series is that the 5 Series normally has here, they have like a little compartment, a little extra compartment where you can, I used to put my sunglasses and wallet there. But this doesn't have it. Again, it's a consequence of this sleek vehicle, this sleek design. You lose some stuff from it. But there's not really much you can do if you're making that sacrifice for a beautiful looking car. All right, let's take it for a drive. Now, nothing too flash in the center of this car, noting that it is a little bit older, but things to consider when this car wears out. I'm lucky I got the car, and when I bought this car, it had heated seats, which are great for winter, but in Australia, I'd love those air conditioning seats. I don't know why BMW doesn't do more of it. Come on, BMW, in Australia, you make air conditioned seats, put them in Australia. But things that I've noticed that start to wear is, you can see along here, this little edge just wears out. Now, I would understand that wearing out if it was a high touch area, but no one touches this. That's just starting to wear out over time, and it's the same up the top. You can see this here. It's tragic because I've never even used this CD from memory, but you can see above it, it just starts to wear out. I'm guessing you could replace this entire panel, and if you bought one of these, I'd actually recommend that you do buy a whole new panel. But overall, that's a bit of a shame that starts to wear out. Looking at the engine start stop, again, you can see over time, I swear cars do this on purpose, as in manufacturers, they make high touch areas wear out, so you want to buy a new one, because it's just like, it just ruins the finish. And you can see here as well, the edge, it's not that it's chipping or cracking, it's just this sort of finish is looking a little bit old. Now, with the auto start stop, if you've ever owned a BMW, some people, or the auto start stop in any car, some people hate using the auto start stop. They don't like it turning on and off automatically, so they'll press this button here to turn it off. I love the start stop. It saves petrol, and with a 6-cylinder it's seamless. When I was driving a 3-cylinder recently, the engine start stop was a lot of work, so to kick over again, you could really hear the engine really trying to struggle to start again. But in a 6-cylinder, they stop the engine right at the top of a compression stroke in one of the cylinders, and then when you take your foot off the brake, it'll start up again. Or if you flick one of your levers, it'll start again. Or if you move the wheel, it'll start again. Or if you take your foot off the brake, it'll start again. So there's a few ways you can start the car again. But if you don't want it to stop, say you're going through town and you're about to come to an intersection and you don't want it to stop, what I actually do is I just take my hand off the steering wheel and I just knock that to the side. I can't do that now because it's not started, so I'll start it up. So if I don't want the car to stop and I'm driving along and I just don't want to stop, instead of reaching here, because I can't actually physically see that, so if you look from my vision, I can't see that, so I'd have to sort of reach around and press that button. Instead of doing that, when I go up to an intersection, I just knock this to the side, which I can't do now. Here we go. So I'll be here and I get up to the intersection, I just go dunk, and that will stop the engine stopping. And then when I drive off, I just knock it back. So to drive this car manually, and this is applicable to all BMWs, of course, you can use your paddles, which is fine, or you can just knock that to the side and drive it this way, going forward and back. And what's funny about the steering wheel is that this is the older shape, then they made the newer shape, which was round, and now in the latest model they've kind of gone back to this shape again. So you think about steering wheels, there's only so many shapes they can make. What, circle, triangle, square, rectangle, which is kind of weird in the center. So it seems that BMW is bouncing between these two shapes. Going down to other bits that you can see are wearing out, this is a bit of a shame. You can see high touch area, it's just started to wear out. I originally didn't like the automatic handbrake, that is the electric handbrake, but I love it now, because you stop your car, you just press off, lock that, and then away you go. The auto handbrake is when you stop, it automatically engages the handbrake, and then when you take your foot off the brake and start to drive, it re-engages it, or sorry, takes it off. I don't like that function. I'm sure if I was in a hilly area, maybe, and if I was driving a manual, certainly, but in this car there is just no need. surround view, bird's eye view is absolutely essential in this car. In the big 6 series, I would never ever buy a 6 series without this. You need it, and I use it all the time. A bonus feature of this car is it's got the auto park assist, which is really Gucci, because it parks itself. Actually, I should actually clarify something. I should actually clarify what this is. So this button here is, just clean up that focus. Okay, so this button here is in fact looking left and right over the wheel arch. So you come up to an intersection, you can't see over the around the corner or around the car in front of you, so you press this and it activates a camera on top of each wheel arch, which enables you to see around the corner, or just forward. So it puts a camera right at the front of the nose, noting this is a huge bonnet at the front of the car, and as a result you can actually see just around the corner. Not a very good picture at the moment because I'm just in a driveway, but these yellow lines here also enable you to line up the front of your car with a gutter. So if you're pulling forward and you worry about hitting that gutter, you simply keep pulling forward until that yellow line just comes forward to where you need it. Now there's no gutter in front of me in this instance because I'm just driving. Now when I go in reverse, I've got the bird's eye view, and to go back to that view, press that button again, back onto that view there. So this view is actually really handy. I use it quite often, particularly as it's got a long nose. Sometimes you can't see around the corner, or you can't see around that bush, or like a car that's blocking the intersection, or there's a car parked. Really good function that I use more regularly than I thought when I first bought the car. Then the other one, this is auto park and bird's eye view. So when I press this button here, it goes to bird's eye. I'll just fix the focus, and we go to bird's eye. If I open the door, it'll turn off the bird's eye, which is also sometimes too when you go to reverse. Oh, here's another thing that's annoying with this. Well, not annoying, it's a good feature. Let's say I go to drive off now with this door open. The car will go for a little bit and then suddenly slam on the brake and say, no, you've got a door open. So I'll actually do that now and see what happens. There you go. So I tried to drive, it immediately put me back to park automatically. That alarm goes off and it says, no, I'm protecting you against rolling away. And that actually stops you accidentally rolling away or leaving your door open and driving and hitting something. The bad thing about it is sometimes you go to drive and it's very aggressive. It'll really lurch at you and just slam the car into park when you go to drive away, and it really actually hurts you because it's like just slamming the brakes on. Down to the iDrive, note that this is the older version, so it doesn't have that bigger jog shuttle, but I actually find it quite comfortable, particularly as you've got this really wide armrest with a double open here. And what's different about this to other cars is you can open just one side, so you've got two buttons, and unlike other cars where you press a button and both will open, you can actually just open one side at a time. Because this car is getting a bit old, some of the wear you might see is here, which is a shame, but that's what happens when you get a car that's old. But that's this old, and also a little bit of wear there. You don't really notice until you start going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Here you've got a ashtray, but it's actually quite a good coin tray. I'm a smoker, and you've got you've got a cigarette lighter that isn't even a lighter, it's just a blank fill-in, but you can see there's a little light in there. I've got some nitrogen valve caps and some 20-cent coins, and I think I've even got a stamp in there and a spare key to the house, so everything is in there. Talk about this sports mode for a second. The problem with these modes here is that it's say I'm driving along in comfort. So here we are, I'm in comfort. Oh, sorry, I'm in Eco Pro. And let's say immediately I want to go to sports drive. Well, when I press this button here, I can't just go straight to sport. I have to filter through them all. So I have to go from Eco to comfort to sport plus. So that's literally me going press, 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 press. Whereas with the new one, you can just go straight to the mode. But what's good about this is that it is tactile. However, I've got to admit, I've sometimes been driving and I've reached down and I've pressed the wrong button. It's because you keep your eyes on the road, and it's not a huge issue, but sometimes you press the wrong button and you're like, why isn't anything happening? But I must admit, even if I'm in comfort and I just floor the car, it just gets very aggressive very quickly. This is I call it the burnout button. So if you press and hold this, as I was talking about before, I'm pressing and holding, and then it says DSC deactivated on the center screen, DSC off. It's pretty much saying you're on your own, good luck. And then you have that little orange light just up here saying careful, you're in burnout mode. Alright, let's check out the outside of the car. Note that this version comes with an ejection seat. Kidding, that's just something I put on myself.